Hello, California, and welcome to this week's edition of Your Financial Compass, the show that's dedicated to helping you successfully navigate to and through your retirement. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and joining me in the studio is Chris Bulman. He is the founder and a financial advisor at Bulman Wealth Group, and Scott Vlahon, financial advisor. My favorite dynamic duo. It's great to be back with both of you. How are you?
I'm really good. Chris is good now, but we found out that he ate gluten he's generally gluten-free. He ate gluten.
Too, yes.
So if he sprints off the set, heads up, that's probably why.
It's California. If there's not an allergy, what are we doing? You know? I mean, hey.
Oh gosh, well, no, we're going to get through the show. It's going to be great.
Yeah. Fingers crossed.
And I know you put together another fabulous show for our viewers at home. We like to have a lot of fun on this show, but at the end of the day, this show is about you and helping you make sense of what you need to know so that you can live the retirement you've always wanted. And the reality is, when it comes to retirement planning, financial planning, a lot of folks know that they need to be doing certain things, but they don't know necessarily when to do the right things. And that's an important distinction and an important combination to make sure that you get right. So we're calling today's show the whens in retirement, meaning when should you do this, when should you do that? So I'm excited to get into this with you guys today. First up, I know that a common question that you receive from folks is, when can I retire? How do you even going about asking that question, helping people feel confident in this decision of when it's possible and the right time for someone to retire?
Yeah, that's a good question. It always depends on the individual, right? Mm-hmm. So some people want to retire early. Some people, believe it or not, come in and they say, no, I want to retire at 65. I love my job. I love what I'm doing. Some people retire early and they go back to work because they're bored. Mm-hmm. Most don't, but some do.
Sometimes the spouse is like, honey, you got to get out of the house.
Yeah, we've had enough. I married you for richer or for poorer, but not for lunch. Right. Got to go. But it's a different answer for everyone, right? Mm-hmm. But the first thing is get a plan done. Mm-hmm. And the good thing is, we're here to help. So we can help you do the plan, but a comprehensive financial plan is the first start. So if we, first of all, you sit down with us, we start talking about, what are the goals that you have? Mm-hmm. Do I want to travel? Mm-hmm. Am I ready to stop work now and travel the world? Some people say, no, we travel the world. My spouse was a salesperson and traveled the world.
We just want to be home, right?
We just want to be
That's
home,
a lot of
finally.
people, yeah.
So everyone's different. There's no, when you read the book, what is your number? Or, there's commercials saying this is what you should do and this is what the sky's falling, put all your money here, under the mattress, or the stock market's going to take off, or put it all in Bitcoin. Everyone has these different fixes, but really it comes down to, when do I want to retire? What are my goals? How much money do I have saved? How much more do I need to save and invest? Mm-hmm. What's going to happen to that money? What do I want to have happen to that money? What's the end goal? We don't want to, we said on another show, we don't want to die and be the richest person in the cemetery. Right. So what's our goal? Some people say, I want to spend every last dollar and when I want to die with 10 cents in the bank. Mm-hmm. Other people say, we don't want to spend any money. We have a simple lifestyle. I hear this so often. We have a simple lifestyle and we just want to be simple, enjoy our life, live on $4,000 or $5,000 a month and leave all the money to our children. Mm-hmm. Other people, they are spending $20,000 to $30,000 a month, living, traveling, enjoying, and everyone has different goals. Mm-hmm. And that's what a financial plan starts with, is what are your goals? Right. What are your interests? And we meet you where you are and we take you to where you want to be.
Well, I love that there's no right or wrong to these answers, right? And I'm sure some folks, if I can add on a follow-up question, do sometimes people not know the answers to these questions when they first come and meet with you?
Yes, that's true. And they've never thought about it. Mm-hmm. What do you mean to us? What's important about our money? Mm-hmm. Or what do you mean, what do we want to do when we retire, right? And Scott can tell you a ton of stories. People come in and they just haven't thought that far ahead. Sometimes I'll say, what are you going to do? And they know we're going to travel the world. We're going to go on 3 trips a year. Right. We're going to budget, $10,000 per trip. Other people, just going to, read books and tinker in the garden, and which are 2 totally different expense structures, right?
Exactly.
Budgeting items.
Yes.
And so some people have thought it all the way through. Other people haven't thought about it at all. There's a saying too, a lot of us spend more time planning a vacation
Yes.
than we spend planning our entire retirement.
And that's something that you help change, because this is the longest vacation, if you will, of someone's life, right? It takes a lot of forethought and planning. And this discussion goes really well into the next when that we're going to cover today, which is, when do you know if you've saved enough to retire? My gosh, again, it depends. It directly correlates to what we were just talking about, right?
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I always say, and I feel like some of these ads can be misleading. You see these ads, my retirement number is, there's no magic number. If I just have 1.25 million saved, if I have 1.5 million saved, and once I hit that, I can retire the next day. It doesn't work that way. Or my retirement number is. Those companies are just trying to get you to save more, invest more. Really, the retirement number is finding out a few things. Okay, well, how much are you going to need? You know, as Chris said, part of the planning is like, well, what do you want? Is it $6,000 a month? Is it 4? Is it 3? Is it 10? Is it 12? Finding out what the goal is for money. Then how does, let's say the retirement number is 3 million. What those ads don't tell you is that's maybe 1.5 from your investments, you know, 5 or 750 from Social Security, $1 million from your pensions. It's that retirement number is all of those pieces coalescing together. It's not just, I'm so behind. I hear it all the time. I'm behind. I don't have enough. I have just $1 million saved. Well, but you're going to have a pension. You're going to have Social Security. Every situation is unique. So I think people put so much extra pressure on themselves because they don't have this magical number because the ad told them to have it. It's a lot more complex than that. And there's other things that come in to play. So, and some of that too of, okay, finding out what do you need a month in the budget, and then start to find out, once you start putting the pieces together, what's the gap? Hey, once we take your Social Security, we still need $3,000 a month. That's where the investments come in to fill in that gap, right. to supplement. And remember, your investments, even if we're conservatively invested, are going to earn money. It's not just a blob of money that doesn't stops growing once you're retired. That's going to keep growing as well. But then, speaking of growing, inflation keeps increasing. Taxes, we talk about it every week, are going to go up. So you don't know when you've saved enough. It's how old. It's a lot more complex than just that simple question.
Yes, there's so many pieces that have to fit together, which is why you all engage in comprehensive, holistic financial planning. You have to look at all these areas and how they affect each other.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of folks that you've had these questions, like many of our clients, if these things come to mind for you, I would say, you know, call the number there, click on the QR code, your phone will send you right to a link, and you can schedule a time. We'll have a complimentary, what we call financial compass review. We're going to find out about you, find out about your situation, your goals. We can answer these questions you have, because I'm sure you have a lot of them, and we've heard them all, so there's never a dumb question. And we can see how we can help and what kind of clarity can we provide to a situation, or questions can we answer to hopefully help.
Absolutely. Well, Scott, Chris, thank you so much. I'm excited. We have so many more wins to get into today, but this is an excellent opportunity for you to pick up the phone, call that number on the bottom of your screen to get your own complimentary financial compass review, 888-970-4685. You're also welcome to take out your smartphone. Simply scan that QR code down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That will take you over to a landing page, ask you a few short, simple questions, and a member of the team from Bulman Wealth Group will reach out to you and connect with you to schedule your time to come in to get your complimentary financial compass review. When we come back, one of the many whens in retirement we're going to cover: when should you be rolling over old workplace retirement plans to a traditional IRA, or maybe even, you know, figuring out some other strategies, right? There's so much that goes into this. So stay with us. We'll tackle that when we come back.
I became a financial advisor coming out of the tough times of the tech bubble in the late 90s, early 2000s. Moved to California, uprooted my life, changed everything, and then 9/11 happened the first week in this industry. I was prepared already to help people from tough times coming out of the tech bubble, but what we didn't expect is there were 3 years in a row when I started of the market dropping. That really impacted my whole career. It crafted and created how we manage money. We don't want our clients to ever lose like that. And so everything we do is built on protection. The goal of our practice and the people that we meet with is to remove the fear and uncertainty that we all face, and it goes back to those first years in the market.
I was a sportscaster on television. I grew up in Flint, Michigan. In TV, you bounce around, and went to Mississippi and worked at the NBC station there and covered, college football's big, NFL's big, all that stuff. And a guy I knew relatively well in a different state decided to get out of TV, and in this opportunity I always enjoyed finance and money, and it seemed really exciting. I like to communicate to folks and feel like I can communicate well. It was such a fresh, kind of different career than what I was used to that it was exciting.
We go into every meeting with no place to get. We're there to meet with you, to discover your needs, find out where you are at that point, and how we can help you build and craft that plan for the future.
Welcome back, California. You're watching Your Financial Compass, brought to you by the team of Bulman Wealth Group. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, here with Chris Bulman and Scott Vlahon, and we are talking today about the whens in retirement. If you've ever wondered when I should do this, when should I do that, this is the show for you. And Chris, I want to go back to something that you were saying in the first segment. We were talking about engaging in that comprehensive, holistic financial planning process, and how a lot of folks sometimes don't know the answers to some of these important questions you ask them, but touch on some of the other aspects that you wanted to highlight.
I mean, we were talking to some of the staff here in the studio, in the control room, and she's planning a bachelorette party for her sister, and I was thinking that means there's a mom and dad out there planning for a wedding for a daughter, right? So these are things, and there's also planning trips with kids and the grandkids. But these are things that you can put into your financial plan. We call it results in advance planning, so that you can actually see, okay, I want to retire. I'm 64 years old, but I have 2 daughters or 3 daughters. I've got weddings to pay for. Plus, I would like to be able to take them on a trip every 2 years to Maui or whatever the situation might be. But you don't know how that's going to work in your financial plan. And the great thing about the way we do results in advance planning is we can not only do your comprehensive retirement plan, but we can plug things in like a $50 or $25 or $75,000 wedding, or can we do a trip to Maui every year, or should we do it every other year? Should we only pay for the hotels, or should we pay for airfare and hotels? Are we going to go bankrupt if we pay for too much? All those things we can plug it in, and then you can act in your real life according to what the financial plan says that you can do. And I find that, and our clients find that so valuable.
Yeah, for sure. It's so important to know that this is individualized, personalized. No 2 answers are going to be alike, and so no 2 plans are alike, right? You account for all these things. Well, another question we need to tackle is, when should you roll over an old 401k or an old workplace retirement plan that you might have had at a previous place of employment? This is a big deal for folks.
Yeah, you can almost answer that question 2 ways. So say you're still working, you've got an old 401k. We always recommend roll it over into an IRA as soon as possible, because you think of it this way, and we've talked about this before, every work 401k setup, they're going to have a limited number of options in terms of funds that you can invest in. And there's no one you're dealing directly with. You call, you have a question, you're talking to a different person each time. Well, if you roll it out of a 401k into an IRA, no matter what age you are, and you can always roll an old 401k into an IRA no matter the age.
And it's not a taxable event.
It's not a taxable event. But what it does is it allows someone like us to help you manage it. You have people that you're dealing with, and we have a much wider array of funds to use. So there's that. But then there's something that not everyone knows about. Say you're still working with an employer and you reach the age of 59 and a half, you can do what's called an in-service rollover or in-service distribution. And we've done this with countless folks where at that point they allow you to roll, even if you're still working, roll that 401k or a portion of it into an IRA. And again, the same rules apply in terms of we're going to have more options and we can work it into a plan. So we've done this a lot of times, and people just like that freedom. It gives you more control, and it gives you a lot more options to utilize.
Absolutely, and it helps with fees, everything. I mean, there's so much that goes into that. So I've always been a fan of that as well. As soon as you possibly can, rolling that over, it probably is in your best interest to do so, right? Well, next up, when should you start taking income from your accounts? Because the reality is that success in retirement has a lot more to do with your ability to create a reliable, ongoing income stream for yourself versus the amount that you've amassed. Of course, that plays a role, but it really comes down to income. So when do folks start taking that income for themselves?
Yeah, so it's one of those things where Chris has talked about this before. All the years you're working, say you're working for an employer, they're paying you. The paycheck's coming in, you don't even have to think about it. Well, eventually you reach a point where you're leaving that workplace and now it's on you. You are essentially employing yourself and you have to create your own paychecks. And that comes in a few forms. We always talk about pensions because there's so many state workers in California, but not all of us have that. So you might need those investment accounts to start turning into creating paychecks, or maybe you're starting Social Security along with it. But then, so that's the first step, is starting to create your own paycheck. But another thing too is we're finding out what that budget is. Is it, okay, you need $5,000 a month. And we hear all the time, well, I'm making $20,000 a month. I want to keep that in retirement. Well, time out. How much do you need? Oh, I need 8. Well, why would you take 20? You're going to just pay more. Do you want to pay more in taxes? No. Well, then why take more than you need? So it's about taking what you need and giving yourself freedom of, okay, but I still need to have 10 grand set aside to travel. And that's where it comes into the tax elements of it and the tax ramifications, because obviously the more you take out, it's going to cause more taxes. No one wants to do that. So we always come back to planning, but that's where that works in. It's like, take as much as you need, and then that also works towards that fear that everyone has of outliving your money. If you're not taking more than you need, you're not burning too much firewood and causing issues down the road.
Potential stress, unnecessary stress down the road. Yeah, for sure. Well, we've talked about when should you start taking income, but the next important question is, when are you forced to start taking income? This is a really important thing that a lot of folks don't have on their radar.
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of our clients, and if you're sitting out there, you have $1 million, $2 million, especially if you have rental incomes or a pension, things like that, you may retire and not need any of your retirement income. Retirement being, 401ks, IRAs, things like that. So now that money, especially if you retire at 60 or something, you've got all these years where it's going to grow and grow and maybe double and then double again by the time you're 73, 74. Now you get that age and you've been living on Social Security at some point, maybe your rental incomes, your pension. And then all of a sudden, boom, you've got to start taking those required minimum distributions.
And those good old RMDs.
Yeah, good old RMDs we talked about in previous show, and you are required at that point to start taking income even if you don't need it. So especially if you are thinking about retiring early, anytime you're 50s, early 60s, or even 68, 70, if you haven't done a financial plan, this is the time to start thinking about. Start thinking about, what if we are 60 years old and we've got $1 million in IRAs? What does it look like if over the next 10, 12 years, we take income from those IRAs, but not for the point of taking it and spending it. We do it as a Roth conversion. So we convert it each year into a Roth. By the time we get to 73, we don't have to take any RMDs, maybe because we've converted all of those dollars. We've used our liquid money, some of our liquid money, to pay those taxes along the way. But now we're in a situation when we're 72, 73, we don't have to take any required dollars. So, which keeps us in that lower tax bracket. So that's one of the things I would say, if you've been thinking about, when do I take my income? How should I take my income? I've been thinking about retiring. I've been thinking about income. I'm not sure, should I take qualified money, IRA money first? When do I turn on my Social Security? When do I take money out of my TOD account or my trust account? I just don't know. This is a great time to pick up the phone, give us a call at the number on your screen, click the QR code, and schedule an appointment with us to really walk you through those scenarios and give you ideas and posts to bounce off of to give you the answers that you're looking for.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, Scott, I know this is your joy. You love helping folks navigate through all these questions, all these complexities. And so if you're sitting at home, this is a great opportunity to call that number on the bottom of your screen, 888-970-4685, or scan that QR code down in the right-hand corner of your screen, and that will get you connected for you to come in for no cost, no charge, no obligation. You're going to be able to receive your very own complimentary financial compass review. When we come back, Chris mentioned the hot word of Social Security. When should you take Social Security? We're going to tackle that right after this.
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. After nearly a lifetime on the job, you should be rewarded for all the time you spent working. Whether that's crossing off items on your bucket list, learning a new passion, or rekindling the love of an old one. After all, life isn't over when you stop working. It's the start of an all-new chapter. The one where you're the writer and you get to choose how your story will go. A way to achieve that is by having a clear financial plan to sustain your golden years. The biggest fear most retirees have is if they'll have enough money to maintain the lifestyle they've always enjoyed. Having a plan to help protect you against the curveballs life often throws will help to maintain your lifestyle. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Welcome back to Your Financial Compass. On today's show, we are digging into the whens of retirement. When should you do this? When should you do that? I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. I'm here with Chris Bulman and Scott Vlahon from Bulman Wealth Group. And before the break, Chris, you mentioned a very important word that affects all of us in retirement, Social Security. And I know we could do an entire show. I mean, we could do a whole series of shows on this subject of when do I claim Social Security? When is the optimal time? And so how do you begin even unpacking that question for folks?
That's a tough one because everyone's situation is so different, right? So, good example. Some people, if you're early 60s, let's say, and you can't work or you don't want to work, but you need income, you have to take it maybe as soon as possible.
Right.
A lot of our clients have wealth. A lot of our viewers, you have $500,000, $1 million, $2 million. You don't need to take it at 62. And so what we're solving for is the gap of what your need is, at that particular time. Even if you retire at 62, that doesn't mean you have to take Social Security at 62. Some people get that mixed up. They go, retirement age is 67. No, retirement age could be 55.
Right.
Full retirement age for Social Security is 67.
Right.
But if you have the assets, you can retire, whenever you want to retire if you have the assets and still turn on Social Security at 67. Some people say, well, I can't retire at 60 because I can't afford I can't retire because my company pays for my health care,
right.
and if I retire, I'll have to pay for my own.
Until 65 when Medicare kicks in,
Exactly,
right?
until 65 at Medicare. But I always say that's not a reason for not retiring. If you want to retire, you're ready to get out and do your own thing, and you can afford to pay for your own health care, why would you keep working full-time just because you're getting health care? If you're sitting on $2 million and it only costs $20,000 a year for your health care, well, then let's figure out a way to pay for your own health care, right? So
there's options.
There's always going to be options out there when there's funds available, right? So, but with Social Security, it depends on what the long-term goal is, what longevity is, what health is.
Yep.
Are you married? Did both spouses work? Do you both have a benefit? So there's no one answer. We have a software that will tell us based on a few different criteria, what ages and married or not, things like that, what the optimal time. But even optimal time, it's going to tell us if you live to age 85, this is the optimal age. We don't know when we're going to live. So I always tell people, if you tell me the exact date you're going to die, I can tell you the best time to take Social Security.
That makes it a very easy answer, right?
Yes,
he was a fortune teller prior to being
but a good example, we have some clients that retired in early, I think 2021. They moved to Florida, but we had prepared a comprehensive financial plan. They retired at age 60. Well, we set money aside for the next 10 years bucket. This is the income that they're going to live on. This allows us to let that, they're both healthy, vibrant individuals. This allows us to let that Social Security keep growing, which is a guaranteed payment that's going to be growing, especially after age 67 at 8% per year.
Right.
So
all the way up to age 70.
Yes. So we have a bucket of money that is set aside for income for the next 10 years. Then we have Social Security that will turn on either at 67 or 70 or sometime in between, which we discuss every year. When you make a plan, you still discuss it and discuss alternate strategies along the way. And then we have another bucket that will kick in at age 71 for the next 10 years. And then the income just keeps growing. And what we've learned by their financial plan is, in all the different iterations we did, is they'll never get away from too much income. And a lot of people don't know that. Sometimes people come in and they say, can I retire? Scott and I have told so many stories to each other. We look at them and say, I can't believe you didn't retire 3 years ago. I mean, look at it. No matter what option we choose, you're going to be fine as long as if you spend what you tell me you're going to spend.
Sure. Right. But again, there's so many variables, and especially with Social Security, so many personal factors that far outweigh the mathematical calculations. Well, gosh, we only have a few minutes left in the show, but the next on the list, Scott, is when should viewers start thinking about long-term care?
Well, it's one of those things with insurance. You always hear it said, it's the most expensive when you need it. You're driving, say you don't have car insurance, you get in a car wreck, you don't immediately call Geico, hey, how much is the plan? By then it's too late. Flip side is true where it's going to be the most cost effective when you don't need it. So prior to anything bad happening. So generally when we're sitting down with someone, say in their 50s, when we're having these discussions, that's when we really want to start to eye that option of long-term care to see what the different options are. There's multiple options to look into, kind of weighing them to see what makes sense, because again, that's one of those fears long-term is, a large medical expense happening. Or a lot of our clients say, I don't want to be a burden to my kids. So, or I don't want to live with my kids if something happens to me. So they want to maybe have a long-term care plan in place to help cover that. But the best time to start planning for that, from what we found, generally in your 50s, just to start weighing the options. Again, until, if you start looking in your 60s, 70s, guess what? The prices are going to be a lot higher.
Yeah, absolutely. So never too early to kind of get started with that. And similarly, estate planning. That's another huge piece of a full comprehensive retirement plan. So when should folks start engaging in that process?
I mean, estate planning, trusts, wills, things like that. When you're 18, you need to get durable powers of attorney. If you're a parent and you have children that just turned 18, you need to have durable powers of attorney for healthcare on them. So that's the beginning of the estate planning process for the next generation. For yourself, estate planning means more than just a will. Sometimes people get a will and a trust confused, and it means a lot more than just a will. And in California, there's a certain dollar limit that's around $170,000 or so. But if your estate's worth more than that, it's going to have to go through probate. Well, guess what? If you own a house in California, and it's not your equity, it's the value of the estate. So, so you're going to have to go through probate. If you've ever been through probate for your parents, you need an estate plan.
You want to avoid it at all costs.
You want to avoid that. It can take 8 months, a year or more just to get the appointment with courts.
It's expensive.
And then the cost. Here's the thing, if there's anything you hear today from us as we're talking, if you're in California, which you are watching this, if you own a home and you don't have a trust, we need to have a conversation. Because, as Chris said, there's so much more to it to a trust than that, but at its most basic level, I grew up in Michigan, it's not the same rules. California, you own a house and you don't have a trust, we need to talk. And it's so important, and a lot of people find out when it's too late.
And the cost of a trust today is similar to insurance. The cost of a trust today, while you're living, you're healthy, is a fraction of what you'll pay going through probate, or what will come out of your estate to pay for it.
Not to mention it's a matter of public record too. Once it goes through probate, anyone can go and look up, your records, and it's messy, it's expensive, long drawn out. We want to help you avoid that. Yeah, for sure. Well, gosh, we've covered a lot of whens. Any last minute words of advice about this whole concept of when I should do what in retirement?
Well, I think yes. When should you call us is right now, because if any of these questions have been on your mind or we piqued your interest, this is the time to pick up the phone and call, click the QR code. We have a complimentary financial compass review that we do that's going to take you through all of our process. You can ask all the questions you want to ask, and we're going to help you find your way into retirement.
Absolutely. Chris, Scott, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, thanks for watching. That number to call, 888-970-4685, or scan that QR code. We appreciate you watching. We are standing by, ready and willing and excited to meet you and serve you any way we can. We'll catch you next week. Take care.